Police broke into a Quaker meeting house last night, the 27th of March, and arrested 6 young people. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Quake It Up. A very different type of video, I suppose this is going to be. I haven't really done anything like this before. But then again, I don't think anything has really happened like this before. So it's all a bit bizarre, and I think there's lots of feelings, quite rightly, about this topic, but I had to talk about it. So let's just do it. So I think, first off, as far as I have tried to really get to the bottom of this, and it's quite tricky because there isn't a huge amount of different news sources on it. I've managed to find different sources, but they all seem to be quoting the original article. So I'm going with the Quakers in Britain one, and I'll fill in any other bits that I found from other media as well. The long and short of it, what happened is this. So from what I understand, like a lot of meetings in the UK, as a way of helping to support the meeting house and the costs that come with owning a building, especially in central London, Westminster Meeting in London let out their rooms to a organisation in order for them to host a welcome event. Let's say there's nothing unusual about that. Not so much my current meeting, but the meeting where I started my Quaker journey, they were letting out their building to Extinction Rebellion and other things. Organizations, obviously, they're not going to do it to literally any organization. They have to feel like there's maybe a Quaker message, or certainly representing Quaker values of some sort. But anyway, so Westminster Meeting had let out their rooms, or a room, I think, to this organization. And in the course of an evening, whilst this event was going on, sources vary. I've read 20, I've read 30 police officers, some armed with tasers, came into the Quaker meeting house without announcing themselves, from what I understand. As I said, a lot of this is from what I understand, so I'm not claiming this to be fact. I'm saying this is what I have understood from the sources. If this comes out to be erroneous, then obviously I'll take that on board. But the police entered the building without knocking on the door, ringing the bell, or anything like that. They broke the door down, came in and arrested 6-7 young people. Now, if we just leave it at that, that's a really shocking story. The fact that police can just go into a Quaker meeting, disrupt what's going on in there, carrying, weapons, I suppose, or certainly instruments with which to cause harm, and forcibly remove and arrest people on site. I find that very shocking. And I think, regardless of what the meeting was for or who was meeting, I think that in itself is just a violation. Now, the group in question is called Youth Demands, and I've looked them up, and I would urge you to do the same, make your own opinions. They certainly have very strong opinions on certain matters. Now this channel isn't I'm not getting political on this channel. I don't think it comes within its remit, really. You can have a look at them and see whether or not you support the actual action of and beliefs of that organization. I'm not getting involved in that. What I'm wanting to talk about really is just the fact that, for the first time, Paul Parker was interviewed, so the recording clerk of Quakers in Britain, and saying that this was the first time in living memory where people have been arrested in a Quaker meeting house. I tried to find that out. When was the last time prior to 2025 that anyone's been arrested in a Quaker meeting house, and couldn't find anything, which makes you think of, well, certainly got me thinking, with my Quaker history hat on, of obviously the persecutions that Quakers went under from their inception until the 1690s. Now, I don't believe, well, I don't know, but it wasn't a Quaker event. I don't believe that the people arrested were Quakers either. So it's not as if Quakers are being arrested. So I just want to make that clear. I can't say for certain that these people were wrongly arrested or anything like that. I'm not suggesting that either. But I think just the fact that it happened at a Quaker meeting house and the way that it happened seems to be a deep contradiction to Quaker testimonies of peace. One of my first thoughts was, imagine this happened in a Catholic church, for example. or if this happened in even an Anglican church, you'd imagine a very different type of reception. You could imagine, for example, that the Archbishop of Canterbury will probably say, "Oh, this is awful," or it would certainly get a lot more attention from the media and a lot more outrage maybe than this has. And obviously, this is because Quakerism is a lot smaller, and also because we don't necessarily see our meeting houses as sacred ground. We see our meeting houses as literally houses in which we meet. They're not out there to be holy in any real way, beyond maybe the fact that it's a very important place for us, where this is where we do our meetings for worship. So obviously it has a deep sense of meaning, but we wouldn't say it is consecrated or anything like that in the more traditional way that other denominations would say that their churches are on holy ground. And so I get that. And so I suppose to that respect, it's the same as any other building. But it is a Quaker building. And because of our testimony to peace, I think going in with instruments with which to harm and arresting people on the site, I think that's where I have issues. I think there were other ways that the police could have dealt with that situation. As I said, who knows? I certainly do not know why they were arrested. It seems to be that it was because they were presumed to be organising things that would cause a public nuisance under new laws brought in a couple of years ago. But it just seems to me that didn't need to go down quite like that, I feel. And it shows a deep disrespect, I think, to Quaker values and to, if not the sanctity of the place, the morals of those whose building it is and the morals of those who worship there. It also just makes me think, obviously, another instant comparison that it got me thinking about was I follow a lot of Quakers over in America on Blue Sky, and pretty much every day there's a worrying article on this and that on Quakers being actually genuinely concerned about what would they do if agents came in to arrest people or looking to detain people, and what actually is their legal response to that. And I've looked at that with absolute disbelief, really. But again, because of the situation in America, I thought, well, that probably wouldn't happen here. And then here we are dealing with precisely the same thing. It sets a precedent, I suppose, which we certainly haven't had in this country for, well, who knows how long, but certainly a long time, and certainly not something that we've necessarily considered before. And so I suppose something that has to come from this is we need to decide, well, either we probably need to do a couple of things. We need to think about, well, if this does happen, what is going to be the Quaker position? So, I mean, from what I can see, there has been outrage, quite rightly, from leading Quakers. As I said, Paul Parker was in this article, and this article has been shared quite frequently, and the comments are very supportive of Quakers, because I think we should support causes. I think we should be able to support things and groups and organizations that we think are doing the work which we think is right to be doing. We are a small denomination, and with the best will in the world, we just don't have the capabilities to get messages out there, to organize these events and so on, and all the things that lots of really good organizations do to promote causes that we as Quakers also hold dear. And I suppose I don't want Quakers or local meetings to feel like they need to stop supporting and renting out their rooms to organizations because of fear of this, I suppose. If I have to sort of analyze myself, because I was very upset and angry when looking at this, and I didn't want to be one of those people who just hadn't really got all the facts and just laid out their feelings on the internet. That's obviously the complete opposite to what I want to do. So I've taken some time to think about it, and I think ultimately what I was upset about was the forced entry and the arresting on premises with coming in with tasers, and just the amount of police as well. I think that they're arresting between 6 or 7 people. I mean, do you need 30 policemen? I don't know. I am not a policeman. But you kind of think that's surely a bit of overkill. And that's what upset me. And I felt that as a Quaker, I felt that, obviously I've never been to Westminster Meeting, but I felt a certain connection with them, obviously, because I can imagine what would that be like in my meeting. And I want to uphold other Quakers across the world, and I felt that their space, their meeting of worship, had been violated by this. I also thought that, well, this could happen anywhere. Any Quaker meeting could, have this happen to them, because many of them do rent out their rooms for things such as this. I'm not saying necessarily this one, but other groups as well. And so it just makes you feel, I suppose, a little bit insecure, and as well on top of the idea that a meeting house has been disregarded, I suppose, as a place which might need to be treated reverently, or at least respectfully. Because I know that we say that Quaker meetings houses aren't sacred and aren't consecrated ground, and that is all true. But that doesn't mean to say that it is. We can say it's just like any other building, but it's not really. It's not actually. It is a special place. I think what we need to learn from it and take away from it is, one, just make sure that we have a response. And obviously, the first time that this happens, the response is always going to be caught up in the moment, something that you're having to try and figure out as quickly as you can, because it's happening right now. But actually, what is the Quaker response to this in the long run? What do we do if this happens again? What should we be doing about it? And I think that's something for local meetings to think about when they're thinking about renting out their rooms, but also on a national basis. What's going to be the Quaker reaction to this? Because I think if something like this happens, I think we do need to be getting the message out there that this is happening, because otherwise people won't know and people won't see why it's a problem. I always feel like I say this, I don't have the answers. I haven't got there yet. I think I wanted to air how I felt with this, and I please do encourage you to share what your thoughts are, and not just in terms of how you felt about it, but also what do you think Quakers should be doing going forward with things like this? Because I think it is something that, especially probably worldwide, is something that we as a religious society probably should be considering, and making sure that we just have a plan, that we can't be taken by surprise by these sort of things. But yeah, please share your thoughts and feelings and whatever, and we can try and work this out. I will have a video next week for you, and I will see you then.
Thank you very much for watching the video. If you liked it, please do click on the thumbs up and the subscribe button to get more videos about Quakerism in the UK today. It really does help, and thanks once again.